Hello, and welcome to the This Happened Today in History podcast. I am your host, Mr. Miller. This podcast will cover a number of topics that happened on this date in history. Please visit the podcast webpage at thishappenedtoday.buzzsprout.com. There you can download the notes page, which will help you organize the information as well as develop your own ideas on how these events change the world around us. If you're interested in hearing more, please consider subscribing so you will not miss out on what happens tomorrow in history. Today is May 30th. On May 30th, 1911, Ray Harron drove his single-seater Marmon Wasp to victory in the inaugural Indianapolis 500, now one of the world's most famous motor racing competitions. The Indiana automobile dealer Carl Fisher first proposed building a private auto testing facility in 1906 in order to address car manufacturers' inability to test potential top speeds of new cars due to poorly developed state-of-the-public roadways. The result was the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, built on 328 acres of farmland 5 miles northwest of downtown Indianapolis. The idea was that the occasional races at the track would pit cars from different manufacturers against each other in order to showcase their full power and entice spectators to check out the new models themselves. In 1911, Fisher and his partners decided to focus on one long race per year as opposed to numerous shorter events in order to attract more publicity. The purse for the grueling 500-mile race would be the richest in racing. On May 30th, 1911, 40 cars lined up at the starting line for the first Indy 500. A multi-car accident occurred 13 laps into the race, and the ensuing chaos temporarily disrupted scoring, throwing the finish into dispute when the eventual runner-up, Ralph Mulford, argued that he was the rightful winner. It was Ray Harron, however, who took home the $14,250 purse, clocking an average speed of 74.59 miles per hour and a total time of 6 hours and 42 minutes. The Wasp was the first car with a rear-view mirror which Harron had installed in order to compensate for not having a mechanic in the seat next to him to warn of other cars passing. Impressive as it was, Harron's 1911 speed would have finished him 10th in the 1922 Indy 500. Barely a decade later, nearly all the cars that started the race were smaller, lighter, more efficient, and far more expensive than consumer cars. Their aerodynamic bodies featured narrow gills and teardrop-shaped tails, knockoff wire wheels made for quick, efficient tire changes, and the new straight-sided tires last much longer than their early pneumatic counterparts. The best cars were equipped with four-wheel hydraulic brakes and inline 3-liter V8 engines made of aluminum. By the mid-1920s, the Indy 500 had become what it is today, a high-paying event for the world's most expensive cars. In 1922, the Abraham Lincoln Memorial is on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. It is located south of the White House, west of the Washington Monument, and close to the banks of the Potomac River. It honors Abraham Lincoln, born in 1809 and died in 1865. He was the 16th President of the United States and one of the most famous leaders in our nation's history. Lincoln was president during the nation's Civil War from 1861 to 1865, and he issued the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863, which proclaimed that slaves within rebel states would be free. He is also known for the Gettysburg Address delivered in 1863, which commemorated the fallen soldiers in the Battle of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The memorial was built between 1914 and 1922, and the theme of the building represents the Union. The 36 columns on the outside wall stand for the 36 states in the Union at the time of Lincoln's death. The names of the 48 states of the Union when the memorial was completed are carved on the outside of the memorial. A plaque honoring Alaska and Hawaii is in the approach plaza. The chamber inside the memorial contains the famous statue of Lincoln that was sculpted by Daniel Chester French. Lincoln is seated and facing in the direction of the Washington Monument and the U.S. Capitol. On the inside walls of the memorial are engraved the words of the Gettysburg Address and Lincoln's second inaugural address of 1865. Behind the statue of Lincoln there are these words engraved on the wall: "In this temple, as in the hearts of the people for whom he saved the Union, the memory of Abraham Lincoln is enshrined forever." Located between the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument is a reflecting pool. It was constructed in 1922 just after the Lincoln Memorial was completed. From the Lincoln Memorial, it reflects the tall obelisk of the Washington Monument on the surface of the water. Abraham Lincoln Memorial Facts and Figures. The Lincoln Memorial is 190 feet by 118 feet and is 99 feet high. The statue of Lincoln is 19 feet high and weighs 175 tons. The reflecting pool is 2,029 feet long and 167 feet wide. It holds about 6,750,000 gallons of water. If you look really closely, you can see the statue of Lincoln inside the Lincoln Memorial on the back of a U.S. penny. And in 1971, the U.S. unmanned space probe, Mariner 9, was launched on a mission to gather scientific information on Mars, the fourth planet from the Sun. The 1,116-pound spacecraft entered the planet's orbit on November 13, 1971, and circled Mars twice each day for almost a year, photographing the surface and analyzing the atmosphere with infrared and ultraviolet instruments. It gathered data on the atmospheric composition, density, pressure, and temperature of Mars, and also information about the surface composition, temperature, and topography of the planet. When Mariner 9 first arrived, Mars was almost totally obscured by dust storms, which persisted for a month. However, after the dust cleared, Mariner 9 proceeded to reveal a very different planet, one that boasted enormous volcanoes and a giant canyon stretching 3,000 miles across its surface. The spacecraft's cameras also recorded what appeared to be dried riverbeds, suggesting the ancient presence of water and perhaps life on the planet. The first spacecraft to orbit a planet other than Earth, Mariner 9 sent back more than 7,000 pictures of the red planet and succeeded in photographing the entire planet. Mariner 9 also sent back the first close-up images of the Martian moon. Its transmission ended on October 27, 1972. You have been listening to the This Happened Today in History podcast. I thank you for listening, and I hope that you have enjoyed learning about historical events from the past. Thank you to the following websites for their information regarding today's topics: thepeoplehistory.com, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway's Indianapolis 500 at history.com, the Lincoln Memorial at bensguide.gpo.gov, and Mariner 9 launched at history.com. The music used as the background track for this podcast is Americana, created by Kevin MacLeod on incompetech.com. If you enjoyed this information and would like to hear more, please consider subscribing, as this will keep the historical events in your feed in the morning for each day. I hope you have a great day.